Hello, it's Jennifer. Today I have a few products I want to share with you and also a technique using them together. I'll be using the Tombow stamp runner and some Tombow markers and doing an adhesive resist technique. This is just a fun way to get more out of a product that you have. So this is the card that I'm going to create. I did the technique on the flowers here using the markers and the adhesive. First, I want to show you the adhesive that I like so much. You've probably seen me use this before if you've watched any of my videos. This is the stamp runner from Tombow. You can use it like a regular tape runner and just apply it by pulling it down on the paper. And it puts little diamonds of adhesive, or you can press it onto your paper and it puts down just a small area of the diamonds. So there you go, you can see it from the side how it just presses down and puts just a square of the adhesive. And I like that it has both of those features. But best yet, if you get this adhesive somewhere you don't want it, or if you change your mind, you can rub it away with your finger. So it's by far wonderful for that. Now, I've had a lot of people ask me about changing the refill in this, and I wanted to show you how to do it, what works for me. You just flip open the switch and take the old refill out, and now I've got the new one, and watch as I open this. I'm keeping the refill cartridge in the plastic. I want to keep it there until I have it completely opened. This helps from the cartridge kind of getting out of whack before you put it into the container. So watch, I'm going to hold this in here and flip it over on my hand so it's laying nicely on my hand. I haven't let anything shift. I remove this little yellow piece, and then I take the outside part of the adhesive, put that right on top of it. You'll see it kind of fit in, and then flip it over. And so everything was just transferred into there very smoothly. Now when I'm sure I've got it, I carefully wiggle out the white piece. Now you'll see on the left part there's a little bit of the plastic sticking out. So over here there's a little place where you can use your fingernail or a penny to rotate this. And I rotate it clockwise until it tightens up over there on the left. And I'm ready to go. Everything's nice and tight in here. And once I've got that, you can see the little piece right there. There's a little arrow which points to what direction you should turn it in anyways. Put it back in, close it with that little switch there. And now I just keep doing this until you see some adhesive come out, and there you go. You see the little diamond pattern and you're good to go. I love this adhesive and it lasts for a long time. So now I wanted to show you how to use this adhesive to create this card here, but first I need to create that background, that watercolor looking background. This is super easy. I'm using the Tombow dual pens. They're a marker, it's a water-based marker that's really fun. I've never used these before and I really think I'm going to have a lot of fun doing different techniques with them. I just scribbled some on some watercolor paper, and this is just a baby wipe, and I'm just rubbing back and forth, and look at that wonderful soft wash of color that I got. I actually did this by accident and I liked how it looks, so I'm just using it as a background. So I've got some orange here, and I'm just going to use the baby wipe, same one, and just blend those together. Super easy. Now you could do this on regular cardstock, but I think watercolor paper works much better because you're rubbing so much onto here. So now I'm adding some yellow, and there we have a nice super fast wash of color. It would have taken a lot longer to use watercolor crayons or something else to do that background. Now for the flowers themselves, this is where I do the technique with the adhesive. So what I want to do is do a tone on tone with the pattern. So just bear with me. I'm going to do what I just did before, just to color some areas of watercolor into like a light wash of color. So I want a light wash of pink in one area, a light wash of orange in another, a little bit of yellow on another spot, and green in another spot. And I'm going to die cut some shapes from these areas. Then I'm going to go back and do a technique on top of this light wash of color. I just wanted there to be a soft bit of color in the background of the pieces that we're creating. Now you could use water to do this effect, or they even have a blender pen in the packaging. However, I think this is fun that I can just do this quickly with wipes and it takes no time at all. So now that I basically have these little patches of color, I've got some dies. These flowers are from Memory Box, and I'm going to lay them with the cutting side down. And I also have this Memory Box leaf shape. I just want the little leaves off of it. I'm going to run that through my die cut machine. I use a Vagabond, but any die cut machine works with these little dies. And I'm going to leave them in the paper so they stay still as I run this adhesive lightly across the surface. Now when I put this adhesive down lightly, you can't see it here, but it puts this tiny, a pattern of tiny little diamonds down. And we're going to use this for a resist. So now that diamonds are all across the flowers, and I'm going to go with the markers and do a nice thick layer of color over it. You can't see anything yet, but I promise you will in a little bit. And I'm just going to leave that to sit there. Now you'll see again I'm going to put lines of that adhesive onto some of the leaves here. I'm just lining them up, just rows on right next to each other, and it puts down that little diamond pattern. So I covered about 6 leaves there. I'm going to go back with my marker. I don't worry too much about lining the rows up perfectly because this is supposed to be kind of a sketchy looking technique. So you just, however you do it will be just fine. Now that I've applied a ton of color to this, remember that adhesive rubs away nicely. So what I'm going to do is rub away the adhesive, and what happens is the adhesive resisted that marker we put on top and will reveal that light wash of color underneath. So you end up with this tone-on-tone look. Now if I wouldn't have done that light wash of color underneath, just left it white, when we rub this away we would have a white background with the dark color on top of it. But I wanted it to be tone-on-tone, a little bit less contrast, and look at that fun little sketchy pattern that you get, kind of the look of texture. So I'm going to rub this off the leaves also, and I'm just going to tear off a few of the leaves here, and you can see that texture on the leaves also. Now I need to cut a third flower, so I'm going to do a yellow one here, and then I'm also going to die cut a white one so you can see what it would look like if we left the background white. So I'm just putting rows of adhesive right on here. The stamp runner puts down the little diamonds, and so I've covered both of the flowers, and now I'm going to take a marker right over it. Once again, you could do a regular ink over this if you don't have markers or any markers over this. Just put a coat on top, and actually I want to put a lot of color on that white one, make it a little bit darker, so I'm putting some orange on top of there. You can really do whatever you want here. It doesn't matter at all. And you can use a dye ink or you can use any other kind of marker. Then I'm just going to rub away that extra adhesive and the color that's on top of it, and it resists that color and it shows through the light color underneath. So there's a tone-on-tone yellow. Now this one, watch how this completely changes. When you rub the adhesive away, it reveals the white underneath with just the dark color in between the little diamonds, so you get a fun pattern with that. I'm not going to use this flower, I just wanted to show you what it looked like to have the white behind it. And you can see I didn't take great care in lining up my rows of adhesive. I don't think it really matters. This is something that doesn't need to be perfect. So there I have some fun flowers to add to the card. And here's a closer look at the pieces that we created. I just think that texture is kind of fun, just something a little bit different, and it kind of pops these simple die cut flowers. So now I'm going to go ahead and pull this together with that background that we created. I just trimmed the background piece down. Remember, that's on watercolor paper, so it's on a nice thick paper. And I'm going to put some adhesive with the stamp runner on the back of it here. You only need a little bit, some in each of the corners and then some in the middle. You could also use this as the press and just stamp little dots of adhesive wherever you want it. And I'll put this onto a white note card. Now after I did this, I went ahead and ran this through my sewing machine, just a regular old sewing machine, to give it a nice defined edge along both sides of that piece that we created. This is a stamp from Allie Edwards. It's a stamp set called Incredible, and it's a wonderful stamp set. I'm going to stamp Fabulous first. It has a bunch of words like marvelous and fabulous and wonderful. And I'm using Here Art's black dye ink, and then I also stamped You Are. That's from the same stamp set. You can build different messages. I love the You Are Fabulous. I think it's a great one to use for many occasions. So now I'm just kind of playing around and deciding where I want my flowers to be. And to add them, I'm just putting a few little layers of the stamp runner right at the center of the flowers. Now this is enough to hold these flowers in place, but if you wanted to, you could squirt a little bit of strong liquid adhesive behind it also. But I find that if you just put a few layers of that adhesive right in the center, it'll hold tight. I'm not putting adhesive behind all of the flower petals because I want to kind of pull them up with my fingers when I'm done. This is a card I plan to hand to somebody, so it won't be in an envelope and it won't flatten. You could also tuck some foam adhesive behind the petals to keep them sticking up a little bit if you want to. I'm also using the stamp runner to put some adhesive behind these leaves to tuck into there. I played around with the positioning of the petals and the leaves a little bit, and I secured them down, and I added some black gemstones to the center. Now this is just a fun technique of using your adhesive as a resist, and I encourage you to try different ways of doing so. Other adhesives will also work, as will other things on top of them. If you have any questions, head over to my blog at jennifermcguireinc.com, and thanks for watching.